Hi, and welcome back to Spirit Lounge. Hope you guys are doing well again, and continuing to our journey to through the Samyutta Nikaya. We're going to go through a few other Samyuttas today on that section, which is the Lakkhana, the Opamma, and the Khandha Samyutta. This is slightly longer than all the other videos because there's more slides here, but we'll go straight into this and let's share what knowledge and gnosis is being provided. And again, thank you again for those who are watching these videos, and any messages and feedback you give, if it's useful to you, I truly appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so let's move straight into this. So as we mentioned before, the Tipitaka contains all the Dhamma teachings. It's contained 5 sections. We're on the third of the 5th. This is Samyutta. It's the building blocks of the teachers, which are in vaggas and in suttas, and it's sermons, homilies, discourse, lecture, and dialogue for the most part, across them all. The Samyutta Nikaya is what we're going through today, and this one has, again, discourses very similar to all of the other Nikaya. The Nikayas that we're going to go through are all very, very similar actually in nature. As you walk through this, you'll see this for yourselves. Okay, the Lakkhana Samyutta. On the vision of the chief disciple Maha-Moggallana, a man floating inside a pit of excrement, having suffered this fate for thousands of years as a result of being an adulterer in a past life. On the vision of the chief disciple Maha-Moggallana, a man inside a pit of excrement, and eating excrement, having suffered this fate for thousands of years as a result of being a Brahmin who insulted the holy monks by inviting them to dine on excrement in past life. On the vision of the chief disciple Maha-Moggallana, a female lay follower with robes on 4, bowl on 4, belt on fire, body on fire, and crying out, robes on fire, bowl on fire, body on fire, crying out, having suffered this fate as a result of being an evil person in a past life. I wrote this because I wanted you guys to see it, but I don't necessarily agree with these kind of visions. Yes, of course, being adulterer, someone who's inviting others to eat excrement and so forth, this is going to create negative and demerit bad karma, but it's also as a result of the passage away from grace and the loss and wandering back into the broad channel. So I would say, yes, suffering is something because your soul's vibration holds a tendency and paradigms of past actions, word, thoughts, and intentions and mind that you bring in and you repeat, and you're challenged to not repeat them. And so, yes, you will go around similar challenges. You will be presented with similar challenges. Do you do the same thing or do you not? But these are metaphorical visions, if you like, of explaining this particular principle. Opamma Samyutta, on ignorance as the common controlling element for all form of bad karma or demerit, on the rarity of being born human, on non-human births vastly outnumber the number of human births. Interesting comment, we'll come back to that, I think. On the danger from non-humans to monks who have not used their time wisely and developed themselves spiritually. What it means non-human births, he's not talking about energetic form, they're talking about animal births. Which as I mentioned before, does not happen because there is no purpose to it. Okay. On the danger of non-human monks to monks who have used their time wisely and developed themselves spiritually. Developing the habit of loving kindness. On the ability of monks to protect their minds from the attack of non-humans. On the shortness of life and the need to live diligently. Non-humans here, I think, is not only talking about animal reincarnation, but also negative entity, energetic form being. On the diligence and wise use of time. On diligence and mindfulness as protection against the attack of Mara, the evil temptation. On the need to be well controlled in thoughts, words, and deed in order to withstand this temptation, includes the parable of the cat waiting to pounce upon hungry mice, the cat being Mara, hungry mice being those seeking spirituality, and the cat waiting for anyone vulnerable who is not controlled in thought, words and deed, which for me is action, word, thoughts and intention, and mind, which is an expression either of the right channel or the broad and the tributaries of loss and darkness on the left. On the cultivation of concentration and wisdom, good judgment in other words, and discernment and gnosis, in the arising and fading of each of the 5 aggregates, the 12 nidanas, ignorance leading to karma formations, leading to consciousness, leading to mind and body, leading to 6 senses, leading to contact, leading to sensations through those contacts, through those senses, through the body and the mind and the ear and the tongue and the nose, and leading to sensations, leading to craving for more of them, leading to clinging to them, leading to becoming, leading to rebirth, and again attachment. Remember, it's tendencies and paradigms that we do not remove ourselves from. Leading to decay and death, which is a cycle of rebirth and death. Ignorance begets karma formations beget consciousness, consciousness begets mind and body beget the 6 senses, 6 senses beget contact, beget means attract, attach to, affirm, result to, lead to. Contacts begets feelings begets cravings begets clinging begets being becoming or the generation of new karma leading to the certain promise of rebirth. Being begets birth, the realization of karma, i.e. incarnation. Birth begets decay and death, again it's rebirth cycle. All this begets suffering. On the cessation of all suffering. On the value of isolation of spiritual progress. On the arising and fading of each of the 5 aggregates. On worry and clinging and the notion that the 5 aggregates constitutes the self. On not worrying and not clinging and release from the notion of self and grip of the 5 aggregates being those senses and the mind. Anika vagga, on there being no conception of self in any of the 5 aggregates, and if there is no self in the aggregates, the body is not self-knowing. This constitutes the wisdom of right view. In other words, it's saying don't attach to that which is impermanent. Impermanent is the body, the senses, the mind, the perceptions of that, the feelings, the contacts, the cravings and the clinging to those things. Okay, Bharavaga. On necessary knowledge of each of the 5 aggregates. On full knowledge, the cessation of ill will, which is dosa, the cessation of ignorance, and greed, which is lobo and aviha, respectively. On the need to make an end of greediness for each of the 5 aggregates. On taking pleasure in each of the 5 aggregates being the equivalent of taking pleasure in suffering and being unable to escape suffering. Excuse me. Okay, natum hakam vagga. On giving up what one does not possess in order to achieve happiness and release from suffering. On being one's own refuge and light. On Buddha's teaching as a refuge and light. On those who follow Buddha's teaching needing to investigate the root cause of suffering. On how the uneducated believe the 5 aggregates are the self. Remember, this is the body and the mind and the matter and all of the impermanent things. There being no self to be found in suffering, having no possession over that which is non-self. On ideas of personal superiority, equality and inferiority, the 3 discriminations they are called, arising from any of the impermanent and soaked 5 aggregates being wrong ideas. On the Buddha reckoning false any holy man who does not understand the true nature of the 5 aggregates, the self and non-self. On the 7 wisdoms, understanding each of the 5 aggregates from the perspective of its form, its origin, its ending and the way to end it, the satisfaction of it, the peril of it, release from it. On form, earth, water, fire and air. On sensations, which are the feelings. On the path that leads to sensation of the feelings. the Noble Eightfold Path on senses, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, mind, which is ideas, on intentionality, which are cravings brought on by the senses, on the 6 forms of consciousness resulting from sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, or mind, on searching in the threefold way, via the elements, via mental spheres, and via dependent origin, which is the 12 nidanas. Remember those sensations of contact leading to sensation, leading to craving, leading to clinging, and so forth. On the wrong view that beings become impure without cause, they do come impure with cause. On everything has cause and effect, remember. On the Buddha's right view, that beings become impure with cause and become pure with cause. On those who take pleasure in the 5 aggregates, being destined for rebirth, and those who do not cling, having the possibility of escaping rebirth. What is all of this saying to us effectively? He's talking about mindfulness. He's talking about a state of mindfulness in our action, word, thoughts and intentions and mind perceptions, erasing the attachment to that which is impermanent, the 5 senses and mind and consciousness, the feelings, the contact to craving to clinging, the clinging to rebirth, and to suffering to rebirth and decay and death, and so forth, and that cycle goes on. It's mindfulness through our passage of life, which this is saying, to be mindful of all of these things that can drift you away to desire-driven elements, to matter, to form, etc., and move your way drifting towards the broad passage of many tributaries and avenues of loss. It's difficult to remain focused or away from those things and be in control of those aggregates, right? And making sure that your passage is always going towards the right. Okay, so the Kayaniya Vagga, on the uneducated person not knowing the origin, fading, satisfaction, peril and deliverance from the 5 aggregates as they really are. On the uneducated person knowing the origin, rising, fading, satisfaction, peril and deliverance from the 5 aggregates as they really are. On the 5 aggregates and impermanence, the suffering of impermanence, there being no self in suffering. On not possessing the non-self, not being present in the 5 aggregates, this is the wisdom of right view. On right view, leading to a turning away from the senses, leading to release. Again, this is repeating in a different way what we've already read and interpreted. On the highest and most superior form of consciousness being the state of enlightenment, which is the ongoing gnosis and unveiling of knowledge. We're always awakening, remember. On foolish and evil monks of their pursuing the holy life. On concentration. On clinging and the origin of clinging. On the use of Buddha's teaching, the 4 ways to establish mindfulness, 4-fold efforts and 7 factors of enlightenment, and the 8-fold path. On the nature of cravings, feelings. They are impermanent, compounded creations, and the result of dependent origination, which are the 12 nidanas. Remember, the 12 nidanas on origination is that what originates what, i.e., contact is the sensation of feeling. Feeling gets a sensation of contact to form, sensation to feeling, to craving and to clinging, and so forth. The 5 elements and the cycle of those 12 nidanas. On seeing each of the 5 aggregates for what it is, as non-self. On the 5 aggregates in relationship to elements of the doctrine of independent origin, i.e. the 12 nidanas, ignorance leading to karma, to consciousness, to mind, to body, to senses, to contact, sensations, to craving, to clinging, to becoming, to birth, to decay and death. These are the 12. We'll go through all of these definitions at the very end of all of the Nikaya, because there are many of them, and we'll go through each of them one at a time, and we'll revise them so we understand them, and we'll go through the teachings. I'll go through the teachings of each of them for you so you can understand them separately. It's difficult to put them in each of the passages because otherwise these slides will be just huge. They're repeated many, 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 many times, and we will be putting them in all in context at the very end. Okay, Theravada. On the monk Tissa, Tissa was the Buddha's cousin, and he's failing in the holy life. Thirst for each of the 5 aggregates leading to suffering. Impermanent things in the world change. The cessation of greed, thirst for each of the 5 aggregates leading to the cessation of suffering. On the monk's understanding the 5 aggregates and attaining the end to rebirth and suffering. On wrong view, thus after the extinguishing of desires, death is an absolute end. That's what it's saying, death is an absolute end, not just to the body but to rebirth, because you've extinguished all desires, i.e. fulfilled and lived Buddha's teachings in this instance. On the right view, that when desires have been extinguished, suffering ceases. On wrong view, Buddha's doctrine might be to seek death, not to seek death. Seeks nor does not seek death. Or neither seeks nor does not seek death. On the Buddha's, there's a lot of this within these doctrines. I've noticed this within Upanishads as well. They give you the duality of each thing over and over and over again, and it seems to repeat itself in text around the same region and around the same kind of doctrine. On the Buddha's declaration, he who understands the teaching sees me. On the impermanence of the 5 aggregates, it's repeated over and over and over, as you can see. On death not being an evil, but natural. On the Buddha's declaration, those who have attained concentration never come to wonder if they have lost it. At death, the released ones find the cessation of feelings and all burning craving is cooled. The Puppavaga. On the doom of those without access to sound doctrine and good teachers. I would just say just on the passage of spirituality, of spirit towards grace. Without knowledge of the 5 aggregates coming to great suffering. The impermanence, suffering and the self and the non-self. No true worldly wisdom on account of impermanence. Opening a path to liberation from the 5 aggregates. Again, the senses and mind. On the Buddha, bringing salvation to those in the world without being corrupted by worldly things. This is referring to the teachings. On the Buddha's exhortation, monks abandon all fetters, take refuge in thyself, seek enlightenment with the urgency of one with a head aflame. Buddha's response, nothing is permanent, everything is subject to change and ruin. This is true in life, is it not? There's constant change in our lives, even to a microscopic level, even and going out to the macroscopic level, the eternal infinite level. Everything changes. And none of the 5 aggregates are permanent. It's when we block change, it's when we are resistant to it, and when we cease to change is when suffering occurs. Or rather detachment occurs. Or attachment to the wrong things, that which is impermanent. No bit of self being permanent, and if it were, there would have been no point in following the Buddha's path. On the endlessness of birth and suffering for beings, fettered by craving. Fettered means attached to, aligned with, joined to. On the needs for monks to examine themselves for signs of impurity, it must be purified. On developing the mind in the establishment of mindfulness, right effort, making karma formations, mental ability, 5 abilities, the 7 factors of enlightenment, and the Noble Eightfold Path. Again, as I said, we'll go through all of these. I don't always remember which each and every one is because it tends to get crisscrossed in my mind. There are so many. On the 4 extremes, extreme view of self, extreme view of self, origin of self, extreme view of cessation of self, extreme view of the path leading to the cessation of self. On the 5 masses, which is form, which is matter and material, perception, which is the senses and mind, sensation, which is the feeling, clinging and craving, consciousness, on craving as the origin of suffering, on the self, the origin of the view of the self, the sensation of the view of the self, i.e. the clinging to the ego self, on the self being the 5 aggregates, holding five masses of form, perception and sensation, clinging and craving, consciousnness. On true knowledge, understand the five aggregates as they truly are. On the holder of true knowledge, the Buddha. On monks with and without an understanding of the satisfaction, peril and liberation from the five holding masses. Okay, the Dhamma Katika Vagga. Ignorance of the origin, cessation of each of the five aggregates. As you can see, it's repeated over and over and over and over. You may ask, why am I continuing to extract the same passages from each, the same sentences and messages from each passage? It's to basically, I don't enjoy typing all these out over and over again, but it does give you an idea of what these doctrines and these scriptures are doing. The contributions from Buddha's teachings, but also contributions from many disciples and followers who repeat the same messages over and over again. Because as I've said, and it's evident in all scripture, as I've said before, in the Upanishads and Agamadi, in this and others that we do, others that we will go through, is that the message is very simple. This path to grace is simple, but its brutality comes in its bluntness and simplicity. It is human beings who have created complexity over the journey towards grace. The journey towards grace is not complex. It is simple. It is to understand that grace exists, allow it to enter you, have meditative practice and prayer, have faith, and allow grace to guide you along your journey and make it a transformative one. Allow gnosis to come from every pebble across that stream. Your pebbles and stones, the quantity of them and what's on them and what they represent are different for each and every one of us. But at the end, there is the largest stone which you will be on the longest, and that is your own church. That is your own teacher. That is your own gnosis. Because the element of soul's transition, the rising of the sun to the spirit, moving towards the Father, is your own journey at the end. But all of these are telling you the same thing over and over again, because it's the same thing. There are no different complexities. It's just explained to you in parables, in metaphors, and in stories. But the message is simple. You'll see this when we go through at the very end. We'll go through all of these symbolic terms, the five aggregates, the eightfold path, the 12 nidanas. We'll go through all of those at the very end, and you'll see how simple it really is, the messaging, and that they're encompassed in many different ways, but the message is the same in all of them. Hence why I actually write all these out. It does take a long time, but it has a purpose to it. Ignorance of the origin, cessation of each of the five aggregates, knowledge of the origin, cessation of each of the five aggregates. What constitutes a teacher? One who has turned away from the five aggregates. Well, it's also one who is following it, and it's also one who is giving you sound gnosis. And one that you will also learn from, but also move away from. On not considering any of the five aggregates as mine. This also includes this channel. My channel will, many of you will subscribe to this channel and listen to these videos, but there come a point of time when your ascension, your transcendence, your that which is transcendental in your life is going beyond what my channel will offer you, and you'll move on to something else. I also have a purpose in your life, and you guys have a purpose in mine. And this channel also has a purpose in my life and existence, and it is a purposeful act because it's part of my journey. Okay, I am not considering any of the five aggregates as mine, or I am this matter, or this matter is me. On the things the wise monk should meditate upon, the five clinging masses. Meditation leads to becoming a stream winner, one that has fulfilled the requirements of this releasing from the cycle of rebirth. Becoming fully enlightened and to living in the present with mindfulness. On consciousness and the six senses. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch and mind. The five aggregates for what it is as non-self. Okay, the Kakuja Vagga, apologies. On all of the five aggregates being ashes as non-self. On eliminating for that which is impermanent. On eliminating clinging and greed, which is impermanent. On eliminating greed. On the possibility of meditating deeply and often on the five aggregates. Quieting all of the senses, in other words. calming and concentrating on the breath, some way to meditate, which is to a true knowledge of the five aggregates, meditating deeply and often on the subject of the lack of self in any of the five aggregates. On all of the five aggregates being impermanent and suffering soaked and void of self. On being aware of each of the five aggregates, the phenomenal world, which is the world itself, that which is matter, the experiential world, and the self after death remaining unchanged, the true I is talking about. On how understanding the true nature of the five aggregates leads to turning away from them, for their fading and their extinction and their clinging and their craving, thus releasing one from rebirth and suffering. On clinging and it supports the five aggregates, leading to craving. On the five aggregates being impermanent and suffering soaked, to turning away from them, their fading and extinction. Again, you get the message repeating over and over again, but it does have a purpose to it. Again, transformation is you. It's transformative. You will be on the stone at the end of your journey, and it will be the longest passage. It will be the longest purposeful stone in which you will stand for a long time. This is where more gnosis will be unveiled unto you. Many, many stones surround it. Move on to that as a transformative act and nothing virtuous. Be the thing that you wish to be. Remember, it's a journey which is not easy, but it doesn't require exertion. It just requires humility and understanding and knowing. Thank you again for listening to this. I do appreciate it. You are all a blessing to me, those who do watch these videos. God bless you all. Please give me your feedback and any comments you'd like to make, anything you'd like me to comment on or do in the future is appreciated also. So God bless you all until next time, and thank you again. Take care.